What's up, everyone? It's winter time, and man, it's just not fun to be on the water sometimes right now. It's blowing about 30 out there, so uh, I'm gonna do different stuff, you know. So this is I've been writing down some things that like all these questions I get all the time. So this is a big question. I think it's very I think it's one of the hardest ones to answer. I think it's one of the most um, fabricated. Yeah, I think people tell you a lot of things that sound really good, and I honestly just don't believe it. So I'm gonna tell you the truth about what I think it takes to get sponsors or how that goes about and things like that. So that's the question: how do you get sponsors? Let me start by saying that when I was growing up, when I was a young kid fishing. So we're talking high school, you know, no one had sponsors when you were in high school. You just showed up in your t-shirt and your shorts and you went and you fished tournaments, man. And so and I had a bad outlook on sponsors when I was really young, and I'll tell you why. Uh, Back then, you'd show up to these tournaments, man, and there'd be like five or six guys over there with like team whatever. I don't even want to say the brand it was, but I would just see these guys in all the same matching shirts, and it said team. It was a boat company. It's team fill in the blank, and I'd just be like, I've never even heard of those guys. You know, we'd be doing pretty good on Livingston, you know, top fives and stuff, and I'm like, these guys aren't even getting checks, and they're with team whatever, and I just laughed at it. And I was like, what are they even doing? Like, who are these guys, and why are they on this big team together that don't ever cash any checks or don't do any good? And so I was like, hey man, yeah, I don't know if I was what you would call a rebel, but I was like, man, I'm gonna make it in this sport, and I'm gonna roll up there on the stage with a white T-shirt, man, and some shorts and some jeans and stuff, and show everyone you don't need any of these sponsors to do anything. And like I said, I mean, we're talking a long time ago, so I didn't know anything. You know what I'm saying? I didn't know. I didn't understand it, nor should I have gotten any sponsors. I was just a little kid, and just a little punk high school kid, right? But things have changed now, and I'm not saying that it's changed for the better, but I mean things have just changed in the way this whole fishing industry has gone. So it took me a while to realize what I could actually do for a sponsor and how they could help me out and how the relationship is a pretty good one mutually. So with that being said, um, let me first start off by saying that sponsorship shouldn't be looked at as such a deal that like I just need sponsors. You know, I'm always looking for sponsors. I'm not always looking for sponsors. I don't. I mean, I'm not out there always looking for them or need them. You know, I look for things that I think would be beneficial on both ends. I don't want to. I don't want to sponsor something that I don't believe in, and I also don't want someone to sponsor me if I can't do anything for them. Which I've actually turned down people before because what they brought to me, I just don't think putting a name on a jersey and people looking at that is going to help them based on whatever, you know, type of business they're in. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. But I think there's more ways to do things. If I'm able to do stuff for someone that's going to benefit them, that's actually going to directly affect their business, that's something I want to be a part of. So with that being said, you know, um, just because you do good in tournaments or just because you know, made a 15th place, uh, doesn't really deserve the right to get sponsorships. Like I said, I think it takes a very long time before you can achieve something to where you're going to actually move the needle, right? So, as for me, now granted, this is just for me and how I've done it. Sponsorships, in my opinion, is almost solely based on relationships, personal relationships with people, and being able to communicate and do well within our industry, I think is the number one key. And so let me start off, let me say that by saying that's how most of my sponsorships have acquired, is that I have met people through the industry, gotten to know them, had relationships with them, and then we were able to figure out a mutual agreement on how we could help each other out. And the reason I bring that up is most, and this isn't just for like 13-year-olds or 20-year-olds or 40-year-olds. What I'm trying to say is that I always tell everyone there's two things: stay relevant and make sure you're always within the industry. And what I mean by that is staying relevant is anything related to fishing. And for me, I started fishing Rayburn so much and fishing tournaments so much that I was at every single event. I was fishing Costas, I was fishing Bassmaster Opens, I was fishing Triple T's, Bass Champs, Bass and Bucks. Everything I could get my hands on, I was fishing a tournament. And what happens is you just continually, if you do pretty good in those events, people start to know who you are, and they kind of want to know, they really just want to know what you're doing to catch fish, right? That's the first step. But then you just kind of keep on doing well, and then all of a sudden people start like really trying to figure the whole thing out, because it starts progressing from one lake to multiple lakes to region wide, and you start building this resume, and you start realizing, oh, he just doesn't catch them in March and April, he just doesn't catch them in the summertime. He starts catching them everywhere, doing a whole bunch of different things. He might be better at one thing or the other, but it starts building into this giant resume. And what happened is I started meeting people, fishermen. There's a lot of fishermen in the industry that fish regionally and locally that will never fish the tour, that are unbelievable, but have direct ties within the fishing industry. I started meeting guys like that, guys and girls. And what would happen is some of these people wouldn't take that next step. They liked where they were at, and they realized that they better get in the fishing industry game. And so they chose a job within the industry and put themselves around businesses like that. And so what had happened all these things, friends would know someone over here, know someone over there, a company's trying to get started, or a rod company started up, and guys would trying to figure out a cheap way to get there to promote it. So it's very hard to get on to a company that is very, very established, that is established in the industry. They usually have some of the best pros marketing their products. And so a lot of times when you start off small, just with a company. And that's a great way, because now you can both build that company up and build yourself up and grow at the same time. So with that being said, that's kind of where I started. And over the years, I started meeting more and more people at different companies, different things. And then I was able to really reach out and figure out how to grab a hold of the industry in a way that I was able to move the needle, like change the way people think about things. I had to have a niche, right? I had to be good at something. I couldn't just go out there and be the best guy with a worm, and yeah, I might be phenomenal at catching fish on a worm, but that really doesn't move the needle. And so what I did was I was always with these new baits and these new things, and trying to win tournaments the ways that no one had ever heard of. And what that did I found a niche within the industry that I was really good at, some baits that no one had ever heard of and techniques that no one had ever did. And I was able to turn that into Strike King kind of looked at that as that was a niche that they didn't have, or I fit a niche that they didn't have. And so I was a little bit different, and we were able to work together now, and I was able to help them design baits Not all baits, but just certain things that I had a lot of knowledge on. In return, with that, I met people like Russell, who was a sales rep, and like I said, we'd grown up to the degree 20 miles from each other and never spoke to each other for like 10 years. And then through fishing Costas and making a couple top tens together, we were kind of hanging around all the time. And it was a funny story. He actually drew my best friend Brent in a tournament in the Costa, and we both made the top 10. And he kind of asked about me, kind of what my deal was. And from there, it became like, hey man, what are you doing next year? Like, let's fish some of these Texas team trails. And then all of a sudden it grew into a pretty good close friendship, and we're still fishing tournaments now. We fished the tour, room together and did all that. And he has a lot of connections within the industry. And, I'm not one of those guys trying to use those connections, but what happens is he talks to a lot of those same guys, and I kind of talk to the same guys, and this other person over here I know kind of talks to the same guys, and you get fit in with a meeting over here, doing something over here. Hey, can you do this for me here? And it starts just building those relationships with other people in the industry. And that goes from the Strike King ties to now the Lose ties. And then it's something over here. And another guy in the industry with Ranger, he was on the service yard back when I was a 20-year-old fishing some of these, I think they were called Everstarts at the time, Rayovacs. And I had one of the oldest boats in fishing them, and they were always having to work on my boat. It wasn't even a Ranger. But I think they just felt sorry for me because I came up there with this old boat trying to fish these events and practice while everyone else is practicing, and I'm up there at the service yard trying to get my old boat fixed. And to be honest with you, man, I think I was just a pretty good kid, pretty nice and pretty respectful to everyone, that was older than me and everything. And I guess I carried myself in a good enough manner that they had a pretty good respect for me. So as they moved up within the industry, years later, some of them got to these pretty good roles within the company and moved way on up, and were kind of able to, they still remember that. And so all of that progresses. And so that's how I think most sponsorships go. Resumes and everything are great. I'm just going to be honest with you guys. I know a lot of these people that collect these resumes. They're getting hundreds a week. It's hard to impress those people. And something on paper is great, but they want to see you talk. They want to see you be able to speak to other people, how you handle yourself. On the water counts too. And let me say this, because we've done a lot of, for some of our Costa kids camps and stuff, we do a lot of things. We did one this summer that we held an entire, pretty much an integrity class, right? Things to do on and off the water, things to do and things not to do. And we shared a lot of our experiences that we have. And trust me, there's a lot of things that go on and off the water and within our industry that are swept underneath the rug and are not talked about, and they're bad. They're things that aren't good. There's ways people handle themselves, whether it be on and off the water, through emails, through phone calls. It's really unfortunate that some of these fishermen act that way, and vice versa. But what it's taught me is, and I never wanted to be like that. I've just never thought that was the right way. Honestly, I think I was raised different, and I just don't think that that's the way to handle yourself. You can stick up for yourself, but I just don't think that some of the ways they act are right. And so what happens is that gets talked about throughout the industry. And let me tell you something. You can do some things on the water. You start acting a certain way on the water, I promise you everyone will eventually find out about it. We all talk about it. We all know the guys that are always out there, poaching other people's stuff, looking around, not doing the right things on the water, getting into it with people, cussing and yelling, and always acting a fool out there on the water. And then you hear about the other guys that don't ever do that, and that travels through fishermen just like it travels through the industry and the people hiring people and the people doing the sponsorships. It's going on to this days from the high school level to the pro level. And so you have to remember that. And man, I just, regardless of whether it helps you within the industry of getting sponsors, it should be something you just strive to want to do, is to be better on and off the water. Just because I think you're going to gain more in life by achieving some of those goals by doing the right thing. You might hear of people doing the wrong thing and getting ahead, and I mean, we've all heard the whole nice guys finish last thing, but I just, our industry is usually pretty good about taking care of the nice guys and the good guys in our sport. So that goes a long ways. I hadn't even really touched on the fishing part. The fishing part, look, everyone can, there's a lot of guys that can fish. There's a lot of guys that can win. There's a lot of guys that can do good. It's very hard to be really good over a long period of time. And if you can do that, and there's some guys that can do that, they just haven't figured out the other way to really maximize how they are, their personalities, or being able to speak to people, or be able to promote and social media and all these things. I had, a lot of us guys had to maybe not relearn it. We had to learn it. We had to figure out where that fit into our industry and how we could start helping that and grow with it. And so I've done that over the past 2 years. I've really tried to work really hard at it, like real hard at it, and I've seen what the potential of it. So I actually think it's a really big deal. I still also think that being on the ground level and being able to go shake someone's hand and talk to them is just as important. So when I'm at a tournament, I can still go do that and talk to the guys that I'm fishing against, whether it be a BFL or a team event that we just show up at that has 15 teams in it. I want to be able to make sure that I can hang out and talk to those guys and be on the stage at what used to be called the Forrest Wood Cup and still be able to fit that crowd. So being able to do all that, I think, is important. Being able to figure out where you're going to fit in and really strive to find your niche within the game. It might be through the fishing, it might be through the social media, it might be through finding a job within the industry. All of it still depending on the fact of you still have to be relevant in the fishing world. And however you might figure that out, I mean, people have the guys that stay here a long time have figured out that niche and figured out a way to stay there. And like I said, that all relates to the sponsorships, because it's 10 times easier to get a sponsorship from someone or for them to help you if they know who you are as a person, you have a relationship with them, and they trust you. And that's a big deal, because they don't want to be hiring someone that's going to be going off, out on the water, cussing people out, yelling at people, sending bad emails to other companies, doing all these things that's going to reflect bad on them. So that's important. So those relationships you build with people, those are going to stick with you a long time. And like I said, they really want to help you out as well. So now you've got someone really wanting to help you out, and you should in return really be trying to figure out every way you can to help their business out too. How can you promote it? How can you help them sell certain things? And like I said, it helps a lot when you actually believe in that company and are able to really use their products, believe in them, and do all that, because it's going to show. I mean, if you're just kind of halfway doing it just because you get a free rod, you better believe in that rod. It's a lot easier to sell something that you believe in and use rather than something that someone's paying you to get, and that's why, like I said on an earlier video, I love YouTube. I love these videos because I'm able to show you that I'm out there in these tournaments actually using the stuff that I talk about, promote, and when we win one or do whatever, you can see, hey, look, this is what I would actually use. So that's kind of my deal with sponsorships. That it goes a little bit further, and like I said, I know there's resumes and things out there to try to get your foot in the door, but I'm just telling you, it's not going to be easy. I don't look at sponsorships as something that you should just be given. I don't believe in winning a tournament, so you should get a sponsorship because of that. Or, I mean, I can tell you, I won. I don't even want to put a number on it, but I won 20 tournaments on Rayburn over a 2-3 year span, and it didn't really matter, right? I mean, it didn't all of a sudden say, hey, I should be getting sponsorships now. I had to figure out a way to where I could promote something to help someone out. But what it did was it created at least a name for myself to where I was relevant within the industry, within the tournaments, and within the fishermen, that I was able to highlight some of my things, and then try to figure out how to work with these people and help them out as well. And so, like I said, just hang in there, stay with it, and hopefully you can build that into something. And like I said, find your niche, find something that you're really good at within this industry, and that's going to take you a lot further than just winning a tournament, once a year. That's going to be a hard way to get them. But staying relevant within our fishing industry, that's going to get you a long ways. And just remember, you never really know who you're talking to. This is a little bit of advice. You just never know who you're talking to on and off the water, who that guy might know, who that guy might be able to help you with somewhere down the line, or vice versa. I mean, if it's a bad interaction, you don't know if that's going to be also taken to someone else, that you might be trying to get with. So just take that stuff into consideration. I hope this helps. I think this is I believe personally that this is a truer version of how sponsorships get acquired, rather than sending out a resume here and there and hoping that someone gives you a 15% discount. I'm not knocking those. I'm just saying, man, strive for something a little bit more, because I think the more you give, the more you're going to get, and same thing, vice versa. So, I hope this helps. This isn't necessarily the perfect way to get a sponsorship. I'm just saying it's how I've been able to grow in the industry, and to me, it's still the best way, I think, to figure out how to get sponsors, or to at least like have your chance to meet some of these people, because like I said, it's gonna be good in the long run. So hope this helps out. Let me know if y'all think that this is good advice or bad advice. I hope it's good advice, and like I said, let me know. I hope y'all have a good one, man.